The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Gwilda Wiyaka's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the Science of Magic or endorsed in any manner by Gwilda Wiyaka, Relmar McConnell Media Company, its affiliated networks, stations, or employees. Welcome to the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, a program dedicated to uncovering the unified nature of reality and humanity's ever-evolving place as truly galactic beings. For more information on the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit us online at www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Welcome to the Science of Magic, a place where science and magic come together to transform fact into evolving truth. We're coming to you through the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net, and can also be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. This hour we'll be exploring You Are the Dreamer. It's all a dream, Wiyaka, my first shamanic teacher responded to my question. As usual, as far as I was concerned, it was no answer at all. I had asked which was real, daydreams, night dreams, or shamanic trance dreams. I'd come to recognize many things I experienced, and all three would later come to pass. But how can I tell what's really going to happen and what's just a metaphor, I demanded, frustrated that I couldn't tell what was going to take place until it did. This was next to worthless as far as precognition went. You are the dreamer. It's up to you. But remember, what you call real is the biggest dream of all. The man had a real talent for making my head spin, I decided, giving up in defeat. To this day, I don't totally understand the nature of dreams, but have simply resigned myself to being okay with not knowing. I have, however, learned to use all three dreamscapes to navigate and create the waking dream of reality. Let's start with daydreams. I found that by daydreaming a possibility to its conclusion, I could access probable outcome before deciding whether or not to pursue it. This has become a very accurate and useful skill. Other times, by paying attention to what was free-flowing through my dreams, I could actually perceive what was about to happen and act accordingly. I was driving on a 2-lane highway. A corn truck coming from the neighboring field on a dirt road approached the intersection. What it would look like if the truck didn't stop flashed across my day dreamscape, and I spontaneously slowed down. The truck blew through the stop sign and onto the highway directly in front of me, for a time blocking the entire highway. I slammed on the brakes until a space appeared behind the moving truck, and then swerved around him on the shoulder of the road. Had I not slowed and then swerved, the daydream lethal accident would have surely come to pass. I've written numerous books, as well as the entire curriculum and all the text for my state-certified trade school from night dreams. I learned that when in the process of writing, I'd better have a notebook and pen nearby my bed. I'm a singer-songwriter. When working on an album, being musically illiterate, I kept a digital recorder next to the notebook and pen on my nightstand. 2 complete albums have been composed this way. Yet, had I not followed through in daytime to write and publish the books or compose and record the music, neither would have actually happened. It's up to me whether things remain a dream or become a reality. After all, I am the dreamer. In order to enter the shamanic dream or journey trance, I use music and drumming to drop my alpha brainwaves to 7.5 hertz in preparation for entering theta whilst maintaining consciousness. From theta, I can access the quantum level of my life, or, with permission, that of another. I can also direct the resulting interactive dream to access past events, gather information about the future, look into someone's body as a medical intuitive, speak to the dead, or effect a change at the quantum level, thus affecting outcome. 40 years ago, I performed a shamanic journey asking what my life purpose was and who would help me with it. I was shown a bookshelf filled with books, strange little silver discs lying on a desk below. CDs did not exist at the time. I also saw what I now recognize as a satellite with ripples moving outward, and several faces I did not recognize. It made sense to me at the time, yet my intention was and always has been to do what I came to do in order to help others. The other day I was listening to a radio program on the computer. My producer's face was on the video. The laptop was sitting on a desk next to several CDs. The bookshelf above contained books I had written. The meaning of the long-ago journey came together in that moment. I am the dreamer. This is my dream. Our guest this hour is Sim Webb. He's the author of Dreams and Death and the Benefit for the Living and Dying, and his latest, The Dreams Behind the Music. After this commercial break, I'll introduce Craig, and together we'll explore life, death, music, and the amazing landscape of dreams. So don't go away. You're listening to The Science of Magic. Prior innovative episodes can always be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com. Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour, Sim Webb, author of The Dreams Behind the Music, is a speaker and researcher on dreams, applied psychology, consciousness, a physicist, and a biomedical inventor. 3 decades ago, a near drowning on a rafting trip, he suddenly began having powerful lucid dreams, recalling up to 10 a day. A McGill University graduate and pioneering dream research at Stanford University and later in a Montreal hospital, he has designed personal development and biofeedback tools with worldwide distribution. Craig's website is www.applieddreaming.com. Craig, thank you for joining us on The Science of Magic.
Gwilda, great to join you. Thanks very much for the invite.
All right. Hey, congratulations on your latest book.
Oh, yes, I'm a happy father here, just getting past the operating room of birthing the book. Now it's for parenting time, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There's this phenomenon known as an initiatory illness or accident that awakens the shamanic gift. Much of shamanism has to do with trance work or controlled dreaming. You know, I can't help but notice your rafting accident and resulting dream recall and lucid dreaming sounds suspiciously like an initiatory illness. Would you speak to that and how it's changed your life?
Well, I like how you frame that. Definitely seems like a fit. The way I say it is I'm a recovering thinkaholic, and I see it as a powerful near-death experience. And in a way, I'm speaking about my degree at McGill. People laugh. But that was kind of, I think, the source, let's say the precursor to the actual physical event of getting stuck under the raft. 3-4 years being a very focused physicist, objective, provable, science, everything. I'd forgotten about intuition, emotions, human connection, social life, etc. And then I got stuck under the raft and started having the connection with dreams and more with people, and then learning about empathy and things I wasn't really trained in. So yeah, and I like Raymond Moody says, that's pretty good. You say it right, he's a friend. And he says, the way that you tell it's more accurate. And I like how you said initiatory illness. What did you? What did
Yes,
you call it?
an initiatory illness. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of sparked, and then I think of the waking event as almost like the outcome or tip of the iceberg of all the other precursor.
What do you think dreams really are?
That's a big one. Each
Yeah.
person defines them a little bit differently. It's probably an experience that we can remember. You know, we talk about these two things, memories and dreams, right? We have two words for something, I guess categories of experience maybe, but there's big overlaps and all kinds of strange variations between people. So usually we refer to dreams as non-physically perceived events, and then memories or what happened as something was physically perceived. But there's interesting overlap there too. I use it, most of today I'll use it to refer to night dreams, but it could be shamanic dreams, meditation dreams, daydreams, synchronistic waking happenings. Depends a little bit on the topic we're discussing. But let's say sleeping dreams for now.
So tell me about the overlap between memory and dreaming.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting one. If we kind of notice that we're just labeling a word like a file folder title or something, that's how we categorize our experience. But little children who are, let's say, fresh off the press, just getting their physical bodies and learning about how to navigate with the physical senses, they don't necessarily discern quite as clearly, or perhaps they're more accurately just describing everything as their dream or their reality. They'll say, oh, yes, I met with my friend Bobby. And the mother might say, well, Bobby didn't come over today. Oh, no, but we just hung out in my room. And so maybe we could say, oh, he was just dreaming that, or he was daydreaming, or we use the words to classify in our system what might be a really valid experience. So let's say that there are some differences. Sometimes clarity can be different, so people don't always recall dreams or little visions quite as clearly. Not always. Sometimes they're clearer or more vivid. Waking experiences seem to have a little bit longer, unless they're super impactful dreams. Waking experiences seem to have a little bit longer lasting effect in our recall. We can remember waking events a bit more clearly, perhaps because they were physically perceived, but just maybe the way we categorize and interpret life too. So there's a couple differences.
So in the instance that you gave with the little boy saying that he hung out in his room with his friend, do you think that there's kind of like this dreamscape that children, or some of us, have, that we can actually perceive another person in our presence on the dreamscape when waking, and it feels like they're there?
Yeah, well, I like how you frame it. It's good to question it, and hopefully the listeners are kind of thinking about their own events, because once we question it, then we also reclassify some of our experiences. Oh, maybe that wasn't so just a dream. Maybe it was more real than I thought. Yeah, I think there's some bridge. There's some kind of, let's say, realm. Some people have, I guess, shamans. Sounds like you, me also at times. Their inner perceptions, their inner eyes, inner ears, let's say intuition if you want to just generalize, pretty wide open during waking hours so that you can perceive events, pick up things about people that you don't get through your eyes or normal physical ears. And that for children, and also not even just children, people are tuned in, but at the end of our lives, it's pretty common people start to separate a little less. Example in my book there about dreams and death, I speak of my grandmother who was having visits and visiting, I think, with my brother down at the university, even though all that time physically perceived she was staying in the hospital. But I went with it, and it felt very real and beautiful, and her experience and feelings and, I guess, quote-unquote, memory of it was as valid as any other experience she shared, and I didn't sense she was crazy and like losing her mind. She just had a memory that didn't fit physical model.
Sounds like the decompartmentalization we're all going through right
now. There you go. The waking dream starts getting more interesting when we open up inner sensory channels along with our physical ones. That's how I could say it too.
Yeah, the waking dream, it's so hard anymore. It's almost like the lines are blurring between the land of dream and what we call reality, which we refer to as the waking dream. Can you speak to those blurring boundaries?
Well, we'll talk about. We should make a couple definitions so that people can kind of stay with our language. But usually, waking reality will say mass consensus reality. In other words, something that pretty much, generally speaking, there's lots of variations there, but generally speaking, people agree upon by looking outward at it. Like I'm on a radio show with you, and the producer's producing, and we're talking and we're sharing in a linear fashion. And then maybe listeners listening either live or on podcast or somewhere in their life. So we agree upon the event, and we each have our perspective, right? In dreams, it's not quite the same, or at least there's a lot more freedom. We can have mutual theming. This is like sleeping dreams, maybe subjective experiences in meditation too, where we perceive an event that we can connect pretty clearly with somebody else's experience at the same time or delayed. But that it's not exactly from an opposite viewpoint. Sometimes, example, if you dream as someone, one of my clients who was very interested in a rich level of fulfillment, that was kind of his whole intention for his, personal growth. I tuned in a dream where I'm walking around in a food store with these bulk food bins and picking out different colored beans and different items at the bulk section and feeling this rich joy. I think that was the main thing. And I just thought, well, that's an interesting dream, and I went symbolic right away. I guess I'm getting different food for thought from the health food store inside me, etc. But then I found out a few days later that he was actually physically, his body, waking life here, in a health food store looking around and especially picking different colored beans and different things in the bulk section. And he said, I think that was my most joyful moment this week, just buying myself really healthy food and enjoying the colors and things. And I said, oh, interesting. I think I tuned in as you, experiencing your event. So a little bit of blurring of who's the dreamer, I think you started with. So identifying as the person, or sometimes just thematically connecting with the feeling or some aspects of a scenario. So not quite like waking life when we start to get to the wider dream realm.
It's amazing, isn't it? How little we know about dreaming when we start looking at all the aspects that you're framing for us here.
I'm just a student here, a student of dreams, always.
I hear you. So what do you think the major purpose of dreaming is for human beings?
That's a good one. I don't know if there's one. I think each person should probably ask that question for themselves, too. Hey, how could I benefit from my dreams? But I can say some things I've seen from many years' experience here. Number one, that science has kind of proven, they've proven a few, but one is learning. You can actually track, very statistical, repeatable evidence that people learn better after having visual dreams, REM dreams, about whatever task or event or even emotional skill that they practiced. Researchers more and more believe that this is how children learn to walk and talk even. And the lucid dreamers who are conscious in the dream actually use it a little more consciously to learn skills, presentation skills I've heard, doctors performing dream operations before they do the physical, or even the German Olympic ski team actually practices skills like aerial maneuvers before they try them out in waking life to get the balance and learn, and it's been shown that they're developing the neural pathways, but physically they're safe, so if they wipe out in the dream, maybe they shift it before they actually try it out. So you can see that's one of the payoffs. Learning's a big one. Then I'd say the biggest from my experience and what I encourage people to contemplate is life lessons, which is, I guess, maybe a little bit of a general idea. But the key reasons I think that we come here on Earth for, sort of what I mean. What are the big life lessons? Usually we find many of those in our family. Have you noticed some pretty strong life lessons in your family, Gwilda?
Yeah, just a few.
That's usually where the big winners are. I say that's where the buttons are created that everybody else in your life presses, Because as children, we're pretty impressionable. We're very vulnerable. That's part of the ticket. You didn't read the small print, maybe. But we're going to be pretty vulnerable to the world. We're going to accept people's beliefs, energies, the whole system we grew up in. And there's probably gifts there. But at the start, we end up taking on a lot of things, maybe the emotional challenges that weren't taken care of in previous generations, or wars, or things that were out of people's personal control. And then later, hopefully, we can heal that and move on through it. But those things get pretty strong inside us. And those things, at least that's one element of what I'm calling life lessons. Maybe learning how to get free from certain types of judgment, or learning how to get free of certain types of addiction, or master a really important spiritual skill. So it could be things like this.
It occurs to me that, and we'll probably have to take up on this one on the other side because it is a large subject, but it occurs to me, throughout the years that I've worked in shamanic dreaming, is that through our dreams, we're actually laying down a matrix at the quantum level to create reality.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's where learning plays in also. That might also speak to creative inspiration, which would be great on the other side. I like how you frame that. On the other side of the break. It gets a little bit double-level connotation. But creativity, so yes, we're tuning into probable futures is one way to look at it. Maybe setting in motion events, connections with people, an inner Skype or inner email. Hey, if you magically meet me at the grocery store tomorrow, we'll talk about that job that you're longing for, and otherwise you wouldn't know that I know someone who's offering the job, etc. So we tune into possible futures and then map out our lives that way, and that's, I think, another one of the big gifts, creative inspiration, problem solving.
And precognition, too, sometimes, like the example I gave of that truck pulling out in front of me.
Yeah, wow. Wow, that's crazy. Well, thank you for following that, because this moment's possible. And I think the listeners are receiving lots of insights. So more appreciation than just from me for that choice.
Oh, thank you. Well, we're going to have to take that break, I threatened. Craig and I will return to our discussion after this short break. You're listening to The Science of Magic on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Previous broadcasts of thought-provoking episodes can always be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. We will be back, so don't you dare go away. The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com. Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, a place where magic and science come together to promote enlightenment. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour, Craig Sim Webb, author of Dreams Behind the Music. His website, www.applieddreaming.com. Craig, we were talking about how we can dream our futures and choose to take them or not.
Yes, that's an interesting one. Well, first, we should just mention, I think we have a audience that's fairly friendly to that idea, but I'll just mention that science shows when we track it statistically, which is one of the more reliable, repeatable ways to do it, 2 out of 3 people will say that they've dreamt something that later came true, in their opinion. And then if we track it a little bit, that it was something a little more provable, let's say they told someone or wrote it down or somehow made it a little more provable before the event, and that it's a fairly rare event, so that it's not just going to happen every day. About 1 in 12 people have valid precognition, so that's pretty interesting. Something pretty regular that nobody's talking about, or not too many people. Here we're talking about it, and that's good. But just for people to keep their mind open to it, it's a little bit more common than we think. I like the physics side too. The science of magic here. You do physics and the science here too, right?
Yes, that's what we try to do.
Yeah, there's some interesting plots. One study by J.E. Orme, this is probably a good 30 or 40 years ago, I think, in the Journal of Psychical Research. But he did an interesting, study that he tracked the distance between when somebody dreamt of a pretty rare event and when the event happened. So I guess kind of tracking precognition on a time scale. And what's interesting, on a log-log graph, I don't know if people can visualize it, but you get a pretty straight line. And that sort of speaks to the fact that, this principle of every moment, or let's say every so often, we have a choice, and the world splits into a couple options. sort of the many worlds or parallel universes model is shown by that graph. Because if it's falling off, if the dreamed events are falling off according to when they manifest on a log scale, that means that there's some kind of exponential fall off or drop off, which means that there's many events far in the future that we're choosing from, but by the time we get there, the chance of us having dreamt of the one we're actually in is pretty small, unless it's like a super big important life stop of some kind, like a marriage or maybe meeting a spiritual master or something like that, or avoiding a truck accident. So interesting that the science kind of confirms the many worlds approach to physics there a little bit with a statistical graph. I like that.
So it actually, what you actually just described quite nicely is why psychics suck. Basically, what are you looking at?
The probability problem.
Yeah. What can you tell us about dream interpretation, symbology, and metaphors?
Yeah, well, I like how you framed it a little bit with your intro there, that what is reality here? Sometimes life can be more quote-unquote real, but for people who are able to tune in metaphorically to life, there's usually a whole other level of insight, fulfillment, and maybe even pragmatic information happening when we tune into events symbolically. So that can be kind of like an app. You run this app of metaphorical interpretation or dream interpretation, but you run it on waking life events. People don't usually do that, so I'm suggesting that, look at things a little bit more metaphorically in life. And then also running reality-based thinking on dream events, and that usually helps us become more lucid. Like, hey, wait a minute, people can't fly, or I'm not supposed to breathe underwater, or the bricks weren't aligned on the road this direction yesterday. And then we use a little bit of the waking discrimination logic and this to help recognize, hey, wait a minute, I might be dreaming here, and we go lucid, and lots of interesting things can happen. So, two ways that metaphors, but we can also toss out a few universal metaphors. People usually kind of like that. If they're dreaming of, let's say, a chase, which is pretty common. About 4 out of 5 people have that. Statistics show a pursuit or a chase. You ever had that one, Gwilda?
Yeah, but usually I'm chasing myself.
Oh, okay, that's good, because that's kind of the metaphorical interpretation. Some part of us chasing some other part of us. We're identified with the chasee most often, but if you're on the chaser side, maybe that's a new variation here. I like it. So that's one people have, and we usually say the general idea there is recognize that in that case, a good interpretation model is that the dream or different elements of the dream, the different characters in this case, are actually portions of the dreamer, your larger psyche, but perhaps inside yourself you're identified more with who you are playing as the person running away in the dream, and then it would be good to question, maybe face, maybe explore, contemplate, what part of me am I cutting off from? Am I running away from? My assertiveness or my self-love, or maybe a painful incident that I just don't want to face at the moment because at the time it was so difficult. I just couldn't do it and keep going. And maybe it's time to turn around and reintegrate that energy. And people have really great successes when they do that. Rainbows coming out of their heart, lots of energy in their waking life, and sometimes new skills of integrating gifts from parts of themselves that have been cut off. So that's a big one. Another one, a metaphor here, a universal one, is naked or scantily dressed in public in a dream. Ever had that?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
No place to run, no place to hide. That one.
Oh, you like to hide. Yeah, right. And we're talking dreams here, just in case anybody just tuned in. And I mentioned the big payoff, or at least one of the big, I think, benefits of dreams is life lessons, so things we can learn that apply to both waking and our subjective experience, like dreams and things, or our emotions. In this case, probably about a third of the listeners have this naked or scantily dressed in public. And the important thing to notice in that pretty universal scenario across cultures is that the other people in the dream don't seem to notice, or mind anyways. They don't seem to mind, and that's kind of, in waking life people would usually mind, right? But in dreams, they just kind of shake a hand, how you doing? Or they talk to you or put a shoulder and walk along and discuss business as you're standing there naked. And the message is usually based on the scenario or the setting of the dream. You can say, hey, where in my life am I feeling really exposed or vulnerable or showing my true self and feeling really embarrassed, really? Where I don't need to, because people aren't thinking that way, and they don't mind, but I'm seeing myself in a certain way and probably feeling embarrassed or limiting myself. So an important life lesson there.
Absolutely. I'm really intrigued with lucid dreaming. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, lucid dreaming, a little definition for those who might not know the phrase, because sometimes it's a little mixed up out there. Who I worked with at Stanford, Dr. Stephen LaBerge, now prefers to call it cognizant dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
He said he borrowed the phrase from Frederik van Eeden, a Dutch dreamer, to mean more, I guess, loose as light, so more clear, vivid. But the official phrase, as it's mostly used in science, means a dream during which we know that we're dreaming. And there's tons of variations. Sometimes our memory from waking life's there, sometimes it's not. Sometimes discrimination is there, like we can discern and use logic, sometimes not. Sometimes we're able to do certain events or actions in the dream, like fly, and sometimes not. And then we wake up going, hey, how come I couldn't fly today? So it's interesting that it's not an on or off thing, more a spectrum of experience with some interesting little side rounds. But we'll mention a few examples. Let's hear about you. You sound like you've had a few lucid dreams. Anything interesting that you care to share? Because I always love to hear them too.
Well, because I work so much shamanically, it's hard for me to tell the difference between a lucid dream and a shamanic dream, because I can direct either one. But I've had them. I have them frequently, but it's kind of a bleed over for me, so I'm probably not a good example.
Oh, and at night, are you sometimes fully conscious that, body's in bed in this official kind of sleep mode, except that you're exploring another realm at night also?
Yes, particularly when I'm working shamanically with someone that's in crisis, I will be with me and with them at the same time.
Okay, that's good. So basically a multi-level practitioner of some sort? Seriously,
and
why
I don't
not?
know how lucid I am.
Man, let's use whatever's possible. So interesting. I often tune into clients that way too. I can give one example here. This sort of shows, I sort of think of it as perhaps an inner Skype application. Anything that appears in the waking life here that we know in our physical experience, there's probably an inner correlate or equivalent. So if we have the internet, we probably have an inner net. That's how I like to call it. If we have an outer Skype of connecting with people and getting messages or whatever other apps, probably there's an inner version. So, example, I had a client who was studying with me and taking some of the teleclasses I offer and really trying to face fears in this one session. And I didn't really know exactly what was going on other than she was vacationing in Hawaii, and she gave permission to share this, just so we know. But I had this powerful dream where I'm kind of underwater, swimming around, and I see these scary objects because it's sort of half dark. I'm thinking, oh, wow, that could be like a big, nasty shark. It might eat me. But then from my experience as kind of an urban shaman or maybe a physicist shaman and a lucid dreamer, I said, no, I don't choose that universe. I choose it's safe. It's a dream. I can choose. It's just a log, or it's just a shadow from a boat or something. And every time I would face one, there was a little deeper fear, but I'd go into like trust and choosing and away from like a fearful, I'm going to get eaten kind of. And I just thought it was interesting, and I thought waking up, oh, maybe I'm facing some deeper fears again. I don't know if inception's possible, but I heard that week, because the teleclass we meet once a week, that she was in Hawaii on the edge of the reef where it goes into the deep blue kind of ocean. And she said, I was really freaked out, but then I thought of everything you said, and I started going a little deeper, and I even swam underwater because I don't like to put my head under. And I said, I'm not going to get eaten. I'm safe. And I had to face a lot of fears in there, and I did it just swimming around underwater, and it was a little dark, and I just kept doing it. And, I don't know if it was full free diving, but she said she went way past her comfort zone. I said, well, seems like either I was tuning in or maybe even helping, a little bit of, shamanic inception, helpful inception.
Shamanically speaking, what you are offering to her is a different frequency to choose. So in other words, rather than the frequency of fear, you were offering her the frequency of curiosity. I wonder what's under there. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, safety, and also, as we become lucid that we have the choice, that's actually quite a step. But let's say once we are lucid that we have the choice, then we realize, wow, there's so many creative options to what the future could be in any moment. There's probably a future where there's some dangerous fish here, and I'm sure there's another future where I could get away from it safely anyways. But if I start to get to really be wise, I'm not going to throw away my ration or logic and swim out in the ocean like 5 miles or something. But I'm going to go a little bit deeper and face some of my fears so that I learn that skill, because the rest of my life is really going to benefit, and especially when I reach death's door, I don't want to have any fears left, ideally. Because there's going to be plenty of options to freak out and get caught in lots of bardos and scary places, and I don't want that.
Exactly. So we're going to take a break here in just a little bit, but what I'd love to address is it sounds like through dream work, we're actually rewiring our brain. Do you have something to say to that?
Yeah, and also our enteric brain and our guts and then our chest, and I'd say our entire body as our kind of physical large-scale brain.
Oh, amazing. So the dreamscape affects all the levels of your body, physical,
Absolutely.
mental, emotional, and
rewiring is a good word, though.
Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. Is that why dreams can be so visceral, do you think?
Yeah, well, people say, "Oh, my brain's dreaming." I say, "Well, the brain might be kind of like, I don't know, the CPU of your computer or your body." But don't forget, it's got a lot of other input-out devices we call skin, arms, legs, eyes, and that the whole system.
We're going to have to take that break and pick it up on the other
system,
side.
Let's say.
Yeah. So Craig and I will be back on the flip side of this commercial break. You're listening to The Science of Magic on the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net, the place where altruistic professionals of science and the esoteric create common ground for the betterment of our world. You can always listen to previous transformative broadcasts for free on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com. Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, bringing together gifted people of service to the world. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour, Craig Sim Webb, author of Dreams Behind the Music. His website, www.applieddreaming.com. Craig, we were just about to enter into a really interesting concept, and that's of healing yourself on all four levels through your dreams. So do you think you have to be lucidly dreaming in order to do this, or is it part of the function of dreams?
It probably happens more from intention. I put lucidity on a spectrum, it's not on or off kind of thing. So we're more aware of our dreams, or more aware that we have inner perceptions and other levels of us. And just intending, we can use, I guess, it's called law of attraction, or people can just sleep on it. If they have a question, problem, or they want to heal themselves, or maybe heal somebody else too, it doesn't have to be ourselves. Just the intention starts in motion some of these things, like the rewiring we spoke about. But if we start to get a little more conscious of dreams, like recall them more and add in clearer intentions and see it playing out in our dreams symbolically, like when you shamanically journey or support your clients, you mentioned before, then we can start to reach this official cutoff of where we start to realize during the dream that we're conscious and lucid, and usually from that point on, all the applications, benefits, the ways that we can serve people and ourselves also, they increase quite a bit because we have our waking and dreaming minds together. And what's interesting, people don't always consider, if we can bring the dreaming part of ourselves, like the metaphor, the strong trust in life, and I guess the magic that can be operated by mind, etc., we can also bring our dreaming self into waking life and operate a lot more magically and attract things more easily, maybe get through our lessons quicker, manifest great futures in life too. So lucid living.
Lucid living. I like that. I like that. You brought something up earlier that I was pretty fascinated by, and I've certainly experienced it. There's a concept we call in shamanism, we call it omenology, and that's where we
Okay.
apply the metaphors or dream metaphors to the events that happen in our everyday lives. And I found amazing synchronicity between power animals and metaphors in our dreams or journeys
Mm.
with the behavior of them in ordinary reality. Could you speak to that a little?
Yeah, well, people have sort of seen, I'm sure, in their life signs that we usually call these things. Animals are a pretty good one, but it might be other strong, clear events that seem quite a bit different from your regular everyday bumping into somebody on a metro or whatever. And then when these things appear in our life, let's say the rare appearance of a fox, or in my case, last year actually, dolphins. I can get to that. But then we realize this is pretty out of the ordinary. A new energy is coming in. It looks physically like this animal appearing. But if I tracked my dreams in the last little while, there's probably some hints. If I have been journeying, I probably would have noticed the energy of this animal or this event coming before it appeared physically. And then even after it appears physically, it doesn't have to keep going into the physical life. It might go back inwards and stuff. So it kind of becomes more in our experience. So it's just, let's say, growing into our awareness on multiple levels, and if we're tuned into deeper levels, then we could see it there. My experience with dolphins was pretty interesting. Let's see, on I think about October, this is 2015, I said, wow, powerful, let's see, December 2014, I think, or so, yeah. I'm trying to remember the exact date, yeah, okay. So about October 2014, I had a powerful experience. It said, there's no good reason why you shouldn't go to Florida. That was kind of a waking moment thought. It wasn't really a dream I remembered, but sometimes the dreams are actually percolated into waking language as the first thought that we wake with. It's a little dream interpretation tip for listeners there. Just watch your waking thought. And the thought was, there's no good reason why not to go to Florida. And I had received an invitation to go there for Christmas, but I'm not sure I would have really gone otherwise. But of course, I like to practice what I preach here, and I followed it. And then on December 26th, I saw a powerful vision of about 12 to 20 dolphins swimming all around me, dancing, doing crazy things, and feeling a lot of joy. So I guess like the intrepid explorer I am, I went out every morning by the beach because I was close to the beach in Florida. And then nothing, no dolphins, nothing really happening, except about 3 hours before my plane was to take off back to Montreal. I thought, well, I don't know if I kind of missed it. Maybe it was just metaphorical. I don't know. But I said, no, I choose magical universe, the science of magic here. And I decided to go down with just maybe a half an hour left. And I took my little GoPro and ended up filming being surrounded by 12 dolphins where they were just near the beach dancing around me and throwing fish to each other. And lots of joy and magic and lots of events came from that. So one example of, I guess, facing a little bit of fear and sticking to our vision, but also how that these things can kind of bridge into waking life. Because all last year I was finishing my book, Dreams Behind the Music, and it was my first connection with dolphins who actually speak using sonar.
Mm-hmm.
The water was kind of silty, or the sand was all kicked up because there was some waves. But they could see me really well with their sonar. I just couldn't see them except when they came to the surface. So I thought that's a whole new element coming into my life here, really tuning with listening to the inner muse and music.
I would love to talk a little bit more about dreams and music, if you don't mind, because that's your latest book, and it's fascinating. We've used music and percussion in shamanism for millennia to enter into a dream. So how do they interact in your world?
I think many folks are aware that the actual tuning to a certain frequency of drumming or a voice frequency, sometimes we can just follow someone's voice, or even just emotional tensions, which have their frequency, as you mentioned. We can guide somebody, or we can track someone, or we can just follow and meet someone in a space where they're kind of intending us. So that's, I think, how the journeying works with different kinds of frequencies. I guess my passion about it was helping to get more people connected, since I guess I'm a speaker, author, coach, and different ways of getting the message out there to inspire and help people. I was working on a book all about musicians who were directly inspired for their music in one case, in some cases for dreams, over 100 major artists who actually dreamt, like 20-plus Grammy-winning hits. Except nobody knows that these came from like deep states like dreams or half-awake states. All music that we know. So that was fascinating. And then I started learning that not just have famous artists, musicians and others, but I was focusing on musicians, used some of these, let's say, shamanic journeying or inner skills or lucid dreaming or just dream recall to actually like save their own lives or save the lives of others. Like shocking stuff. We're talking about future probabilities. Here's an interesting one, Gwilda. The band Lynyrd Skynyrd, have you heard of them?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty well known in North America. And they, had put out lots of good music, some of it directly dream-inspired, by the way, Sweet Home Alabama, etc. That's all tracked in the book. But what I found interesting is that their backup singer, JoJo Billingsley, who hadn't been with them for a few months, I guess they were just touring without the backup singers, all of a sudden Ronnie Van Zant called her and said, hey, can you come and join us? I think it was New Orleans, like tomorrow. Not always a lot of notice. But and right while she was talking on the phone, she heard this strong intuition, wait. And so she just kind of paused and danced around a bit and said, well, maybe I'll come in about a week. I can't get my things together. And she said, thank you very much. I'll talk to you soon, and hung up. And that night she had a super powerful nightmare where she saw the whole band's plane with a Corvair, like a small jet, crashing and bloody bodies and death and really unpleasant,
Yikes.
And she woke up kind of screaming, etc. And so next day, right away, she phoned them and said, don't take the flight. I had this terrible premonition, and I think it's on the trip tomorrow. Don't take the plane. And I guess did her best to warn all her friends and bandmates, don't do it. And apparently the band even had a meeting and was trying to decide, should we do this? Should we follow? It's just a dream. And they met, and they finally, unfortunately, decided to take that as their last flight. And they wouldn't take the plane anymore. But unfortunately, it was their last flight, and the plane did crash exactly as they had. So Ronnie Van Zant and a few others from the band actually died, and about 20 people were injured. But what's super interesting is that life also guided them a little bit. About 2 weeks before, the emergency crew that did save or rescue a lot of the people anyway, had actually practiced on the exact same jet with 25 instead of the actual 26 people who were in the plane. But they practiced with 25 people on a Corvair crashing in that area, so they had the whole procedure down.
Wow. Before we run out of time, would you mind telling our listeners where they can find your books and learn more about your work and the trainings that you offer?
Oh, thanks, Gwilda. Well, anybody who's interested in lots of fascinating stories and also how to learn creative dreaming for their own lives, because we're all artists, really, check out dreamsbehindthemusic.com. And if you're inspired for teleclasses, really that's one of the best ways that I can offer my work over like 10-week sessions where we, as a team, we make tons and tons of breakthroughs and have lots of synchronicities and inner Skype connections and premonitions and things. You can follow applieddreaming.com, 2 P's and 2 D's, Applied Dreaming. And that's the teleclasses. And people, if they don't want to follow those things, but are just interested in lots of empowering articles, free articles for the nonprofit Dreams Foundation I direct, that's a really simple one, dreams.ca. You can check it out there. Lucid dreaming, dream recall tips, some interpretation guidance, etc.
Well, it's powerful provision, because I'm here to tell you that dreaming can make all the difference once we become aware of it, don't you think?
Well, I'm appreciating our dream right now. I'm feeling lots of joy, and that we're serving people and having a good time doing it. So it's kind of dreamy, but a good dream. It's not always so good. Thanks.
It's the dream you built, though, isn't it?
I guess that's a celebration. I fully receive it with a pretty open heart and a lot of gratitude. Thanks, Gwilda.
All right. Well, I can't thank you enough for being with us. It's been a real pleasure working with you in the dreamscape and in the waking dream.
All right. Well, blessings to all the listeners, and hopefully they'll try some of the experiments and have their own experiences.
That'll be wonderful. Our guest this hour has been Craig Sim Webb, author of The Dreams Behind the Music. His website is applieddreaming.com. This has been The Science of Magic. Remember, you can always listen to past thought-provoking episodes on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. Until next time, dear ones, may you be blessed with knowledge and comforted with love as you explore the endless landscape of your dreams.
One people, one nation.